Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show on Hotline Radio, and thank you so much for tuning in. The show is about conversations that matter, people making fantastic changes in the world, positive changes, and we have another beautiful soul on the line with us. She is the founder of Hera Mission and also the CEO of Bruyère Foundation. Please welcome Peggy Taillon to the show. How are you doing today, Peggy?
Great, Nikki. Thanks so much for having me on board.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, so it's appreciated. So we'll get right to it. Tell us a little bit about your background leading up to the creation of Hera Mission.
Sure. I've worked most of my life in healthcare and leadership roles of big complex organizations, and was at the Ottawa Hospital at the time and leading a pretty complex journey to really build the strategic future of the organization, and went off to Kenya for some time away after several years of not having a vacation with a friend of mine who was doing some volunteer work in Western Kenya, and I had just gone through a pretty challenging separation and divorce, and was really rebuilding my life, and had actually started looking at the possibilities of adoption. And ironically had said to my friend Wendy, who I was traveling with, I'm going to look into the adoption process while I'm in Kenya. And within days of our arriving, we went to meet a friend of hers who started to tell us the story of his 14-year-old sister-in-law who they had just found out was pregnant. And the family was quite devastated because she was obviously very, very young, and the family was quite impoverished. So they were literally saying, I don't know how we can possibly feed another mouth in our home, and she's too young to become a mother. And my friend Wendy, knowing that I was looking into adoption, basically turned and said, well, Peggy will take care of the baby. And not kind of knowing what that meant, we started kind of exploring options, and had a very lengthy chat with his wife. And we had agreed that we would meet over the coming days and talk about the possibilities of my helping in some way, and even the possibilities of adopting. So I thought we had a couple of months to plan, and we were going to meet in a couple of days. Within 3 days of that conversation, I got a phone call basically telling me that my son was born that night, that night, and that the family was on their way to see me.
Wow!
And that they were very excited with the possibilities of my taking this baby. And so this brought me through what ended up being almost a 1.5 year journey to fight to adopt my son. They don't actually allow single-parent adoption in Kenya, and I unknowingly, by virtue of kind of being in contact with the family from day one, had broken 6 provisions in the Adoption Act in Kenya. So I ended up involved in the battle for my life to become Devlin's mom. Lived there for the entire period, fighting the courts and the bureaucracy and navigating the adoption system there, while at the same time still maintaining my leadership role in Canada. And it basically led me to create Hera Mission. Hera means love in my son's tribal language, and it's his middle name. He's Luo, just like Barack Obama. And his tribe, the village that we support is called Asembo Bay. It's a beautiful, very traditional African village on the shores of Lake Victoria in Western Kenya. And we work with a leadership group of women on helping them with dealing with catastrophic poverty, an entire generation being wiped out due to HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria. Yeah. And the women basically lead all of these initiatives, and we support them through Hera Mission. And we do everything from, raise money for economic development projects for women, health initiatives, infrastructure projects like irrigation systems. We have a student sponsorship program, so you can sponsor kids to go to secondary and post-secondary school. And we also have a big agricultural program there.
Fantastic. And how old is your son now?
He's 10. He's 10.
He's 10. And how's he doing?
He's doing fantastic. He's he's a really kind little soul with a lot of empathy. He's incredibly athletic, and my whole dream and my whole promise around the adoption was that when we got through this, if we got through it all, I really wanted him to know who he was and where he came from, and really understand his culture, and always feel a connection to Kenya. And we have contact with his birth mom. She's a member of our family. He now has a little half sibling sister in there, and we are in contact, and we support them financially, and we have our connections to our village and many friends and family. We actually have a Kenyan elite runner living with us right now, so we're very connected to it, and I'm quite proud of it because it's really become part of who we are as a family. And so we're kind of connected by these two extraordinary countries through my son, Canada and Kenya, and two really special communities, Ottawa and Asembo Bay. And so it's like a part of him is always there, and he's really proud of who he is now.
How has this passion, this divine purpose that you have, how has it transformed your life?
It's there's obvious things that happen, when you become a mom, and particularly a single mom after going through a struggle like that. But I feel like I was fundamentally changed in Kenya, and I often think of it in terms of like going through that process and living there and learning from the women in the village and the elders in the village and learning from the culture, and it really gave me a grounding. So I had a very senior role at the Ottawa Hospital, and was involved in a lot of big system-level change in the healthcare system. And, that looks really successful from a certain measure, right? But I think that I had also lost kind of sense of what was important to me from my own personal values as a woman. And I think that Kenya reminded me of that. I felt such a deep connection and have such a deep personal connection to Kenya immediately. Like when I landed there, I felt like I was kind of coming home, which is, odd for a white woman from Northern Ontario to say, right? But I really did feel that way. And I felt that I learned a lot about, getting back to what's most important in life, and also being, more hopeful and optimistic and grateful for the things that we have here and the things that we often take for granted here. And I certainly learned a lot more about myself as a woman and certainly as a mom in our time there.
Okay, fantastic. How did the journey begin for the Bruyere Foundation? What is that, and how did it start?
Sure. So Bruyere is a large health provider in the Ottawa region, so the second largest in the Ottawa region. So Bruyere is a hospital, but they also provide complex continuing care, long-term care, and supportive housing. So they're kind of a unique institution in healthcare because not only are they a hospital, but they're also providing housing and a lot of supports to housing and that sort of thing, because they saw a huge need for seniors and vulnerable people who were just unable to find affordable housing in the region. And Bruyere is one of the oldest health institutions in the Ottawa region, so founded by Mother Bruyere in 171 years ago, believe it or not. This young 27-year-old nun was sent to Ottawa. Well, it wasn't even Ottawa then. It wasn't even Bytown. It was... kind of predating our Confederation. She came on a horse and buggy in February, believe it or not, from Montreal, to start the first hospital, school, and orphanage in the region. And at the time, there were Irish workers here building the canal, and there was a massive typhoid outbreak, and so hundreds of people were dying. And these sisters came in and they just started treating these poor Irish workers, and they literally saved hundreds and hundreds of lives, while at the same time none of them got sick and died. So it was a kind of this miracle that happened. And so we kind of rest on the shoulders of this great woman and really try to fulfill her vision and mission and live through her compassion and compassionate values as an organization. And so a lot of the population that we serve are people who are vulnerable and marginalized. And we're really right now carving out the future for Briere and have some really exciting projects in the works to better serve our community.
Fantastic. So, Peggy, what's the short term for you? Do you have any projects coming up, any fundraisers? How can people get involved? How can they give their time or donate sponsorship?
You know, so for Hera, we're I'm sure some of your listeners have heard that there's been a pretty catastrophic drought in East Africa, Northeast Africa. So our village has actually been deeply impacted by that. And so right now we're trying to raise $20,000 to put a new irrigation system in so that the women can do some share crop farming and just brings a greater sense of stability and prosperity to the village. It's been a very, very rough couple of years, so that's a big project for us. We also have, because of my son is an athlete. He loves basketball as his favorite sport. And we're partnering with another charity called Awesome Ottawa, and we do a 3-on-3 basketball tournament every year. It's Ottawa's largest as a fundraiser. That's July 9th here in Ottawa at Lansdowne Park. And people can get involved either through sponsorship or putting teams in or supporting teams. We sponsor impoverished kids to play that couldn't afford the registration. And so that's at 3on3 in the 613.com. So people could certainly support that. And then we also have an event coming up in September with the GM of the Toronto Raptors basketball team. He has a charity called Giants of Africa, and we're doing a joint initiative with them in September here in Ottawa, basically to air a film that was done about his volunteer foundation efforts, and to talk about some sport and the importance of sport and international development. So that's coming up in September. And then for Briere, we actually have a really cool event called Broadway for Briere. So Broadway across Canada does these Broadway shows in different major cities in Canada, and they've partnered with Briere. And on July 27th, we have Motown, the Broadway show Motown, with a VIP reception and an after party here in Ottawa. That will definitely sell out. Motown is one of the best Broadway shows, so we're really excited about having that for our fundraiser this year.
Okay, excellent. So I am so excited to meet you, Peggy, on Wednesday, June 28th at 6 o'clock at La Creole Express in Gatineau, the Nikki Clarke Show live there. So if someone is listening now from the Gatineau, Ottawa region, you want to come down, if you're visiting, if it's your hometown, you've got to stop by and support Peggy and all the wonderful things she's doing in the community in Canada and also in Kenya. So, Peggy, thank you so much for your time. And can you just tell us one more time how to connect with you by telephone or website information?
Sure. So Hera Mission is HERA-mission.org, and Briere is BRUYERE.org. So either of those websites, you can get to me.
Excellent. Well, you've been listening to Peggy Taillon. She is the founder of Hera Mission and also the CEO of Briere Foundation. She will be at the Nikki Clarke Show live in Gatineau, June 28th. And please connect with her through her social media and the website information, and do the right thing. And if you have a heart of gold, like Peggy, please do your best to give back to the community, and Peggy will show you how to do that. Peggy, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks
everyone.
Nikki. See you soon. Thank you.
Have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.